This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Many actors wait a lifetime for that one big break, the one role that will propel them to superstardom. For Harrison Ford, that role came in the form of Han Solo in the original Star Wars trilogy. That was the stepping stone to not just Indiana Jones, but a whole host of other memorable roles that make up his body of work. Where the Star Wars franchise is concerned though, he may be the exception rather than the rule. Despite being one of the biggest film franchises of all time, many of those who featured prominently in it never went on to star in anything outside of the convention circuit ever again. Recently, Daisy Ridley, the undisputed star of Disney's sequel trilogy, claimed that Star Wars had been an anchor for her career, dragging it down. But is she correct? Is being in Star Wars a curse for a budding career rather than a blessing? In this video, we will explore just that by going through the careers of some select Star Wars alumni, including John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran, to see how their involvement with the franchise worked out for them, and which, if any, conclusions can be reached. Needless to say, we will in this video explore the fates of some who, outside of Star Wars, only had limited success with acting, but who nonetheless had great success in other fields within creative industries. One takeaway from that is that while you should never give up on your dreams, you should never stop learning and never stop picking up new skills. In whichever creative endeavor you are interested in and whichever level you are currently at, Skillshare's got you covered. Skillshare, this video's sponsor, is an online learning community for creatives, where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including film and video production, creative writing, freelance and entrepreneurship, marketing, productions, freelancing, and a whole range of other topics. Whether you are already working as a creative, a dabbler, or are just a curious lifelong learner, Skillshare has classes to fit your skill level and your schedule. As classes are under 60 minutes, they include a combination of video lessons and a class project, enabling you to acquire new skills quickly. This is something we can attest to ourselves. We are frequently complimented for the high production quality of our videos, but if you go back and look at our older catalog, you'll find this wasn't always so. Skillshare's courses in video and film production helped us to up our game from where we were, and no matter where you are, they can do the same for you. Access to Skillshare costs less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, but since they sponsor this video, we naturally have a deal for you. The first 1,000 of our subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial of a premium membership so you can explore your creativity. So click the link in the description to sign up while we get back to exploring the post-Star Wars careers of select Star Wars alumni. And let's begin with someone who in many ways is the face of the franchise. Though many may not have been aware of Mark Hamill before Star Wars, his acting career actually stretches back as far as 1963, when he appeared on the soap opera General Hospital as the character Kent Murray. What followed throughout the early and mid-1970s was a string of appearances on sitcoms including One Day at a Time, The Partridge Family, and dramas including The Streets of San Francisco, Medical Center, and 8 is Enough. In 1976, Hamill auditioned opposite a young actor named Harrison Ford for what was a low-budget science fiction film called Star Wars, directed by American Graffiti director George Lucas. Other actors who also auditioned for the parts included Kurt Russell and the Greatest American Hero star William Catt. Hamill got the part and was paid $1,000 a day during shooting. Good money at the time. Then, on May 25, 1977, Hamill's entire world was turned upside down. Star Wars became a cultural phenomenon. Due to Hollywood's typecasting, Hamill found it difficult to break out of the mold of the wide-eyed, bright young hero. However, he would transition from the screen to the stage, where he found success in stage productions of The Elephant Man and Amadeus. However, it would be a success in Star Wars that would prove to be a detriment to his potential casting in the film version, as director Milos Forman would pass on Hamill because of it, and instead cast Animal House actor Tom Hulce as a young Mozart. After Return of the Jedi, Hamill's career shifted from being in front to predominantly behind the camera. Apart from the occasional one-off appearances on programs such as The Outer Limits and appearing in the video game Wing Commander, Hamill spent a large part of the 80s and 90s as a voice actor for animation. He is best known for playing the part of the Joker in Batman the Animated Series. Hamill would also make film appearances throughout the 90s as well as appearing on television. In 1998, Hamill would be featured on the NBC sitcom Just Shoot Me as himself. That same year, he would land a role in the Swedish spy thriller Hamilton, directed by Harold Swart and starring Peter Stormare in the title role. In 2001, he would also appear as himself in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, directed by Kevin Smith. Over the course of the next decade, Mark Hamill would see a steady stream of voice work in animation and the film industry, as well as appearances on film and in television. Though he may not have been propelled to superstar heights in front of the camera, the actor still found success behind it. Carrie Fisher's career in Hollywood began in 1969 when she appeared as a Girl Scout in the television movie Debbie Reynolds and the Sound of Children. At the age of 19, Fisher was cast as Princess Leia Organa in Star Wars along with Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford. Director George Lucas reportedly had wanted Jodie Foster for the role, however she couldn't commit to it due to her part in Taxi Driver. In 1986, Fisher would co-star alongside Diane Wiest and Mia Farrow in the critically acclaimed Hannah and Her Sisters, written and directed by Woody Allen. Yet despite the critical acclaim of Hannah and Her Sisters, what followed for Fisher was a string of smaller roles in films such as Amazon Women on the Moon and The Burbs starring Tom Hanks. What's more interesting than the roles that Fisher did get are the ones she didn't. Fisher auditioned for roles in the films Thelma and Louise, Superman, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Top Gun, Pretty Woman, and Grease. In 1987, Fisher would try her hand at writing, publishing the semi-autobiographical novel Postcards from the Edge. Fisher would appear in various film and television roles over the years, including Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery, and even follow her castmate Mark Hamill into voice work. Before reprising her signature role as Princess Leia in the sequel trilogy and her untimely passing, she would also work extensively as a script doctor, which included work on the sequel trilogy. Harrison Ford had been acting in Hollywood since the mid-1960s, appearing on television shows such as The Virginian, Ironside, Love American Style, and The Mod Squad. He was working a side job as a carpenter when he auditioned for Star Wars, reading for the part beside Mark Hamill. After Star Wars, Ford seemed to have difficulty finding acting work, and he sort of faded into obscurity. When the time came to make the Star Wars prequel trilogy, George Lucas cast a net for child actors far and wide to search for the right actor. 3,000 actors were auditioned. Of them, 7-year-old Jake Lloyd was chosen to play Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace. When The Phantom Menace was released on May 17, 1999, it was a box office sensation. Critics, however, weren't that impressed. Fans and critics were especially none too impressed with Jake Lloyd. The criticism wouldn't merely be confined to the press. He would later describe his experience post-Star Wars as a living hell. At one point, he became so angry with the very film that gained him instant notoriety that he smashed all of his Star Wars toys and memorabilia. At the age of 12, Jake Lloyd retired from acting. In June of 2015, his life had taken a turn for the worse. Lloyd was arrested in South Carolina by Culleton County sheriffs after leading them on a high-speed chase at over 100 miles per hour, breaking through a fence, before finally stopping 25 miles later down the road after his vehicle went through a dead end and hit several small trees. Lloyd was charged with reckless driving and failing to stop for officers. In April of 2016, after serving 10 months in prison, Lloyd was transferred to a psychiatric facility and was diagnosed with schizophrenia and anosognosia, a lack of awareness of one's own symptoms. 2 years later, in 2018, Lloyd lost his sister Madison when she unexpectedly died in her sleep. According to Lloyd's mother, he is now living in a residence close to his relatives and is making progress. Growing up, Emmett Best had aspirations of pursuing a career in science. Best learned basic programming and started working with music software, and even ran a small retail website with a friend, which he soon abandoned. In 1991, Best graduated Columbia High School and enrolled in the Manhattan School of Music, where he studied percussion. In 1995, Best joined Stomp, a percussion group that uses common everyday items in their performances. With Stomp, Best toured the United States and Europe. It was with the San Francisco company of Stomp, where he had risen to the lead role, that Ahmed Best caught the eye of Robin Gurland, the casting director for Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace. Gurland was taken with Best's athleticism on stage. Gurland invited him to Skywalker Ranch, where Best put on a motion capture suit and was asked to demonstrate his movements. A month later, Best was on a plane to the UK to begin work on The Phantom Menace. The backlash to Best's character was swift and severe. Many were not taken to the character's goofy nature, some even charging Lucas with portraying negative stereotypes. In 2002, he reprised his role as Jar Jar Binks for the second film in the prequel trilogy, Attack of the Clones. It would be on the set of Attack of the Clones that Best would pursue work behind the camera. He would produce the behind-the-scenes series for StarWars.com, Behind the Scenes with Ahmed Best, where he would conduct interviews with the cast and crew. Much like Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher before him, Best would also find work behind the camera and voice work. For Ahmed Best, things seem to be recently looking up. He currently hosts the Afrofuturist podcast, where he talks to guests from the fields of science and academia about topics ranging from technology to education. He also worked with Seth MacFarlane to develop a television series and continues to work on video games, and even has a new Star Wars series called Detours in development, where he once again reprises his role as Jar Jar Binks. In 2016, Tran was cast as the Resistance mechanic Rose Tico in Star Wars Episode 8 The Last Jedi. A Vanity Fair article and photo shoot in May of 2017, nearly 7 months before the film's release, gave audiences its first glimpse of Tran's character in costume. The same article touts Tran and Boyega's character being involved in an important plot point, where they venture to a Monte Carlo-style casino planet. Meanwhile, the hype surrounding The Last Jedi was growing, with some claiming that it was going to be the best Star Wars film since Empire, possibly even the greatest Star Wars film of all. On December 17, 2017, Kelly Marie Tran, in an Instagram post, was seen eavesdropping on fans who were talking about The Last Jedi. Then, as if on cue, the air was let out of the balloon, as Star Wars fans and audiences actually got to see the film. Kelly Marie Tran's character, Rose Tico, drew sharp criticism, with many claiming that the character was useless. In June of 2018, news outlets started reporting that Kelly Marie Tran had left Instagram due to racism of Star Wars fans. On August 21, 2018, Tran penned a New York Times op-ed piece titled, "I Won't Be Marginalized by Online Harassment." Yet in the piece, there is no mention of why she left Instagram and only vague references to what could be interpreted as online harassment. She goes on to blame Hollywood, the media, and companies that profited from her, as she puts it, insecurities. Tran would continue to appear as Rose Tico in the series Star Wars Forces of Destiny and LEGO Star Wars All-Stars. She would also appear in 21 episodes of the Facebook Watch series Sorry for Your Loss, starring Elizabeth Olsen as the character Jules Shaw. Tran resumed her role as Rose Tico for The Rise of Skywalker, albeit in a significantly reduced capacity, where in The Last Jedi, Tran's character was on screen for a total of 10 minutes and 53 seconds. In The Rise of Skywalker, she's relegated to approximately 1 minute and 16 seconds. For the actress who boldly claimed that she would not be marginalized, it would appear that she was just that. Post Rise of Skywalker, Tran has a number of projects in the works, including the upcoming Monsterland anthology series at Hulu, the Monsters Inc. spin-off, Monsters at Work, as well as voice work for the film The Croods: A Dawn of a New Age, and in Raya the Last Dragon as the title role. Kelly Marie Tran's trajectory still seems to be on an upward trend, despite the impacts of a global pandemic and the baggage of being in a Star Wars movie. In 2011, Oscar Isaac first played the part of X-Wing pilot Poe Dameron in the Disney motion simulator attraction Star Tours: The Adventure Continues. In 2015, he would return to the role of Poe Dameron in Star Wars: The Force Awakens. The movie went on to gross over $2 billion at the worldwide box office, with many taken by Isaac's on-screen charisma and heroism as Resistance pilot Poe Dameron. A year later, Isaac would play the titular villain in X-Men Apocalypse, a film that marked the directorial return of Bryan Singer to the franchise. The movie received mediocre reviews, as well as criticism for the prosthetic makeup of Isaac's character Apocalypse, which many thought resembled Power Rangers villain Ivan Ooze. The film grossed $534 million at the box office. In 2017, Isaac would once again return to the role of Poe Dameron in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, where audiences were once captivated by his on-screen heroism. This time Dameron would be relegated to the sidelines, chastised and scolded by both Carrie Fisher's General Leia and Laura Dern's Admiral Holdo. The film went on to fracture the fanbase and cut the box office of the preceding film, The Force Awakens, by over $700 million. Isaac would have no shortage of work in the years between Star Wars films, which include Life Itself with Olivia Wilde, Operation Finale, as well as once again reprising his role as Poe Dameron for the Star Wars Resistance animated series and a cameo role in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. In The Rise of Skywalker, Isaac's Dameron would put on his flight suit one last time. He would star in The Letter Room by writer and director Elvira Lind, before taking on his next film, the long-awaited film adaptation of the Frank Herbert science fiction novel Dune, from director Denis Villeneuve, which is currently in post-production. When asked recently if he would return to the role of Poe Dameron, Isaac would say he would, only if I need another house. Though Isaac speaks fondly of his time on Star Wars, he has aspirations to work on smaller films in the future. Isaac says, "It's not really what I set out to do. What I set out to do was make handmade movies and to work with people that inspire me." For Isaac, who has 3 movies in post-production and 1 in pre-production, his post-Star Wars career seems to have landed him exactly where he wants to be, in the driver's seat of his career with his choice of roles he wants to choose from. John Boyega's big break came in 2011 when he appeared in the British sci-fi comedy Attack the Block, directed by Joe Cornish, who had previously co-written the screenplay for The Adventures of Tintin with Edgar Wright and former Doctor Who and Sherlock showrunner Stephen Moffat. Attack the Block was nominated for several awards, including Best Film at South by Southwest and Best Actor for Boyega from the Black Reel Awards. John Boyega's involvement with Star Wars was first announced on April 29, 2014. In a video on Twitter, the actor recounts answering an email from director J.J. Abrams and then overdrawing his bank account to meet the director at a restaurant, who asked him, "Are you ready to be a leader?" and then told him, "You're the new star of Star Wars." In the first theatrical trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens, Boyega's face is literally the first one seen. Boyega was featured in much of the marketing for the movie, however for the Chinese posters for the film, he was painted out of them. In the push for the film, it suggested that Finn's part would be much more prominent than it would turn out to be. In the time that followed the release of The Rise of Skywalker, John Boyega has been critical of both fans as well as the Lucasfilm hierarchy itself. In an interview with GQ, the actor says, "What I say to Disney is to not market a black character as important and then push them aside." The outspoken actor has been notably upset with the Disney brass recently, with some might say is good reason. Finn was featured prominently in the marketing push for the first movie, only to have his part reduced in the preceding 2 films. As for his future projects, Boyega currently has 4 films in various stages of development, as well as a television series. Despite being sidelined in the Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy, it would seem that at least for the time being, John Boyega would have no shortage of work in his post-Star Wars career. Born in Westminster, London, and spending her formative years in Maida Vale in the northern part of the Paddington district, Daisy Ridley is the youngest of 3 to her mother Louise Faulkner Corbett, a banker by trade, and photographer Christopher Ridley. Her mother's family were what's known as landed gentry, a British social class of landowners who could essentially derive their incomes from collecting rents. As Star Wars propelled Ridley into prominence, she would turn her attention to her next role, that of Miss Mary Debenham in the latest film version of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, directed by Kenneth Branagh. She would reprise her role of Rey for the video game Star Wars Battlefront 2, before taking it on once again for Star Wars The Last Jedi. While critics raved over The Last Jedi, fans would criticize Ridley's character of Rey as an overpowered Mary Sue who could do no wrong and was seemingly all-powerful. Ridley would then go on to star in a retelling of Hamlet from the perspective of the female character Ophelia. The film was not a success. Against a budget of $12 million, it only made $224,410. Like her previous castmates, Ridley would then take on voice work. She played Cottontail in the animated film Peter Rabbit, starring James Corden, and the short featured Flopsy Turvy, and would once again take up the role of Rey in Star Wars Forces of Destiny and the short The Rise of the Resistance. She again played the part of Rey in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. A year later, she would once again pursue voice work in the video games 12 Minutes and The Dawn of Art, as well as once again playing Rey in the upcoming video game LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Though Ridley claims to have suffered from a dearth of offers, before the pandemic struck, the actress had up to 5 projects in various stages of development. She also has reportedly landed a role in the film adaptation of Jessica Shattuck's 2017 novel Women in the Castle. What lessons can we learn from all of this? At the time of making the original trilogy, and to somewhat of a lesser extent the prequel trilogy, being too closely connected with a high-profile sci-fi or fantasy franchise could certainly be detrimental to one's later career. There are many examples of this. Both George Reeves and Adam West struggled to overcome the shades of Superman and Batman respectively, as both audiences and casting directors saw them as that, not whatever character they later might be in consideration to play. For the same reason, Mark Hamill struggled to escape the shadow of Luke Skywalker. And had it not been for Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford could have easily struggled as much with his post-Star Wars career as Hamill did. Today, however, the industry has changed. While being closely tied with an iconic role such as a comic book character, it is no guarantee of a successful future career. It is also not the virtually guaranteed anchor it once was. For Daisy Ridley then, it would appear that any lack of work is only temporary and due to the lockdowns. Compared to previous Star Wars actresses, her star is still, at least for the time being, on the rise. If that should change though, she can always look towards many past Star Wars alumni who had great success in other creative fields. On that note, remember to click the link in the description so you too can explore your creativity and be among the 1,000 to get a 2-month free trial of a premium membership of Skillshare. With that, let us know your thoughts on all of this in the comments.